For the last few years, gaming mice have become kind of boring. Every new mouse promises higher DPI, lower weight, faster polling rates, and somehow every company claims their sensor is the best sensor ever made. But here's the funny thing, most pro players are still using shapes and technologies that are old. So when Logitech launched this Pro X2 Superstrike and said this could actually reduce your reaction time, I thought it was completely nonsense. Because see, I'm almost 29 now. I've been playing FPS games for well over 15 years. I grew up on CS 1.6, spent years grinding CSGO, and these days most of my time goes into Valorant, CS2, and for aim practice I use aim labs. And if you have been gaming for a long time, you have probably noticed the same thing I have. Your aim can improve, your game sense can improve, but your reaction time slowly starts getting worse. So when Logitech claimed this mouse could shave previous milliseconds of every click, I wanted to find out one thing. Is this just another overpriced gaming mouse, or is this the first real innovation we have seen in gaming mice in years? But before I jump into it, if you're new here, I am Siddharth Malhotra and you're watching Digit, where we bring you detailed, no-nonsense gadget reviews and comparisons. Now the funny thing about the X2 Superstrike is that it doesn't look revolutionary. In fact, if you have used a G Pro Superlight before, this will immediately feel familiar. Same symmetrical shape, same safe design, same esports first approach, and honestly, that's a good thing. The G Pro shape is one of the most copied mouse designs in the industry for a reason. Whether you use claw grip, fingertip grip, or sometimes in between, it works for most people. At around 60 grams, it's also incredibly light, very easy to maneuver, and if you are a low sense player like me, then this will help you in flick shots. Speaking of maneuver, you also get a PTFE foot so that it can feel smoother. Build quality is exactly what you would expect from a Logitech's flagship esports lineup. Solid shell, premium materials, there's no flex, and nothing feels cheap here. Now let's talk about the reason this mouse exists. Because the switches inside this thing are unlike anything I've used before. Normally, gaming mice use either mechanical switches or optical switches. Mechanical switches rely on physical contact, optical switches use light beams, and both work extremely well. But Logitech decided to throw both out of the window. Instead, the X2 Superstrike uses something called the HITS system. That stands for Haptic Inductive Trigger System. Now let me explain in the easiest way. This mouse technically doesn't click. If you can hear, you can't. At least not in the traditional sense. There are no conventional left and right click switches inside. Instead, Logitech uses electromagnetic sensing to detect pressure and then uses haptic motors to create the feeling of a click. It is just like the touchpad of a MacBook. Which means when the mouse is powered off, the button feels completely dead. No click, no feedback, nothing. So right after you turn on this mouse, it suddenly feels like a normal mouse again. And honestly, it felt weird the first time I experienced it. Now here's where things get interesting, because once you remove traditional switches, you gain something most mice simply cannot offer. Adjustable actuation. Think about a Hall effect keyboard. You can decide how deep a key needs to be pressed before it registers. This mouse works in a similar way. Through Logitech G Hub, you can adjust exactly how much pressure is needed before a click activates. And the difference is massive. At the lowest setting, it feels almost telepathic. As you can see here, my finger barely touches the button and the click is already registered. At the highest setting, you need noticeably more pressure. For me personally, the sweet spot was at level 5. Because the lower setting is generally so sensitive that resting your finger carelessly can sometimes trigger accidentally. But once you find your preferred setting, it starts feeling incredibly responsive, and that's when I started noticing the difference in aim labs. Not because my aim suddenly become better, but because my clicks were registering faster. I'm not even kidding. I even broke my aim labs record from this mouse. That's crazy. Then we come to another feature that sounds ridiculous until you actually try it: rapid trigger. Most people associate rapid trigger with keyboards, but Logitech has brought the concept to a mouse. Normally, after a click is registered, there is a reset point before the next click can activate. Rapid trigger lets you adjust that reset behavior, so the moment you release pressure, the mouse becomes ready to register another click. The practical result: faster repeated clickings. So in games where you are constantly tapping, bursting or performing rapid actions, it generally feels quicker. I tested it through clicking benchmarks and the difference was obvious. The mouse simply resets faster and allows repeated inputs more efficiently. Now again, this won't magically make you an esports champion, but for competitive players, it absolutely provides an advantage. Now let's get the usual specifications out of the way. The mouse uses Logitech's Hero 2 sensor that can go up to 44,000 dpi and 8K Hz wireless polling rate. Tracking speeds that's far beyond what any human can realistically achieve, and honestly, this isn't the reason to buy the X2 Superstrike, because modern flagship sensors have been excellent for years. Even my personal Razer Viper 8K Hz already delivers extremely low latency and fantastic tracking. I've been using that mouse for nearly 5 years and I have never felt limited by the sensor. The difference here isn't sensor performance, the difference is what happens when you actually click. That's where the X2 Superstrike separates itself, not through movement latency, through click latency. After spending time in Valorant, CS2, aim labs and some casual gaming, the mouse feels incredibly premium. The responsiveness is immediately noticeable, the lightweight body makes flicks effortless, the shape remains one of the safest designs available, and the click system genuinely feels futuristic. Because the button travel feels different from a traditional mouse. Once the click activates, there's still some movement left in the button. So initially it can feel a little unusual, not bad, just different. After a few days, I adapted to it. But if you have spent years using conventional mechanical switches, you will definitely notice the difference. Battery life is excellent though. Logitech rates it's for around 90 hours depending on your settings, and during my testing, battery anxiety was never an issue. The G-Hub software also gives you complete control over everything: actuation settings, rapid trigger settings, polling rate, DPI, button customization, macros, everything you would expect from a flagship esports mouse is here. Now there is a B-Hop mode. If you enable it, it will prevent unintended weapon switching caused by accidental scrolling. For example, if you use your mouse wheel to switch weapons and accidentally scroll during a fight, the game won't register that input. To switch your weapon, you have to rotate the whole wheel depending on your settings to change the weapon. Now this is where we need to separate marketing from reality. Can the Logitech Pro X2 Superstrike make me a pro gamer? No. Can this mouse improve your aim? No. Can this mouse improve your game sense? Absolutely not. Can this mouse make a bad player good? Not even close. If your crosshair placement is terrible, you'll still miss. You'll just miss slightly faster. But if you're already a decent player and your reaction time is becoming the limiting factor, this mouse can genuinely help. And honestly, neither can any mouse. Because becoming a better player still comes down to practice. Hours in Valorant, hours in CS2, hours in any game, hours in aim labs, better positioning, better decision making, better aim. No amount of hardware can replace those things. But can this mouse make your clicks faster? Yes. Can it reduce click latency? Absolutely. Can it give competitive players a measurable advantage? I genuinely think so. And that's what makes the X2 Superstrike interesting. For the first time in years, we are not talking about another mouse with slightly higher DPI or slightly lower weight. We are talking about a mouse that actually changes the way clicking works. And whether that advantage is worth 20,000 rupees depends entirely on who you are. If you are a casual gamer, this is complete overkill. If you are serious about competitive FPS games and you are already chasing every possible advantage, this might be one of the most interesting gaming mice ever made. Because it won't make you a pro gamer, but it might help you react like a slightly younger version of yourself. And honestly, that's probably the most impressive thing Logitech has achieved ever. So would you spend 20,000 rupees on a mouse? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.